So I don't really hate anybody. Hate's a really strong word, you know? It implies almost an irrational dislike of a thing. But I ain't gonna lie, I kind of hate whiners and Nazis. But I think everybody with a brain in their head and a heart beating in their chest hates Nazis, you know? I don't know how you can look at that human garbage and just be okay with it. But this really ain't about Nazis, you know? That's a given, right? It should be a fucking given. If you're a human being with a soul, you hate Nazis. Or, you should anyway. So let's just ignore them for a minute and talk about whiners because, dude, these people just get to me sometimes. And not like the people with legitimate grievances. So since I know, there's going to be anti-communists who want to take me out of context here and say I'm trying to say that no one has the right to complain. That's not who I'm talking about. The people who actually do something about problems are not who I'm talking about. You feel me? I'm talking about the people who seem to exist just in order to complain, right? The ones who treat every minor inconvenience like an existential crisis and their life is coming to an end, the sky is falling. The people who bitch endlessly about everything but don't actually lift a finger to fix anything. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? Everybody's got, some coworker or some aunt or neighbor or whatever who does this, right? I'm talking about people who love to point out problems, but they freeze like a deer in the effing headlights the minute you ask, okay, so how do we fix that problem? Right? And I'm gonna tell you guys a secret that even they don't know. It's like leading close because I got to whisper. Actually, I don't got to whisper. I did that because drama. Anyway, these people, they don't want resolution. They want an audience. They thrive on the dopamine hit of being aggrieved, of feeling like the righteous victim in their own personal drama. And if you dare suggest that maybe, just maybe, they could take some fucking responsibility and set about improving the situation, oh, now you're some kind of villain. How dare you imply they should stop wallowing and actually, do something, right? But here's where it gets worse. This same mentality, this addiction to impotent outrage, it ain't just at work. It ain't just your zany aunt who, I don't know, endlessly talks about fucking herbal tea or whatever, even though we all know herbal tea is gross, right? It's everywhere. It's the entire fake left, middle-class liberal activists who've turned justice into a performative fucking wine fest. They don't want change. They want validation. And that's where we're going to pivot, right? Because when you strip away all the sloganeering and the faux radical posturing, these people are just the whiners of the political world. Loud, self-righteous, and utterly flaccid. Look, they don't want revolution. They want validation. It's even in their slogans. It's all about being valid and being seen and not denying my lived experience, man. They've turned politics into an identity badge, a way to signal superiority without the inconvenience of actually fucking doing anything. So, like, when they spell America with 3 Ks, what they're really saying is, look at me. I'm so aware of how bad things are. I'm so above it all. Now admire my moral clarity. That is not analysis, my friends. That is fucking branding. And like all good branding, there's no substance underneath it. A Nike ain't a better shoe than my Merrell because it has a little swish on it, right? But these sort of professional whiners, they drop the words late stage capitalism in conversation, but call talk of finance capital fascist, as if Lenin didn't write a whole book about it, right? They'll call for abolition of systems they don't understand, not because they've studied these systems and how they function, how they're changing and how they can be overthrown, but because extremism feels cool, dude. Look, real change is messy and imperfect and often, honestly, kind of boring. But shouting smash the state at a wine drinking book club or tweeting America, death to whatever, that's instant gratification, my friend. It just is, right? And I don't know. The sad irony here is that these performative sort of professional whiners are almost always comfortable. They're straight up middle class PMC. They live on what we create. And then they talk down to us in the real working class as if we're all backwards hicks. I ain't never rode a bull, but so what if I had, right? They've never missed a meal, never had to choose between rent and medicine, never worked a job that broke their body, yet they cosplay as revolutionaries, appropriating the language of great heroes of humankind like Marx and Stalin and Lenin and Mao, while completely failing to understand what any of these figures stood for. So they rage, right, against gentrification from a luxury fucking condo, right? They'll demand socialism because they want to complain about how bad all us poors have it. But when confronted by us poors in the real world, they cross the fucking street, don't they? Because us poors are not like them, my friend. We're simply not like them. We are patriotic, we love our homeland, and we want to make it better. So it doesn't fit their paradigm of ridiculous absolute evil and pretending America is the only country in history to somehow not be divided by class. Seriously, the wild thing is they condemn America, whatever, however many Ks that was, while being precisely the section of society whose wealth is accumulated through parasitism on the productive economy. You have to be massively stupid to scream about a supposed labor aristocracy while working at home for a Silicon Valley enterprise. That ain't solidarity. That's poverty tourism. It's a way to dabble in radical chic without ever taking part in the real movement. Here's another secret, and I won't whisper this one because I feel I've exhausted all of my drama for the night. But here it is anyway. They don't want to win because winning means responsibility. It means moving beyond slogans and actually building something. And that's fucking terrifying to people who can't do anything. Real movements require discipline. They require compromise. They require hard work. Things that these professional whiners despise. They prefer the purity of eternal opposition, where they can always claim the moral high ground, right? Without ever having to, govern, to make tough choices, or to face the reality that most people don't like their performative radicalism. That's why their activism begins and ends with hashtags, posts, and aesthetic rage. Protests where they just march up and down the street holding signs. They don't organize communities. They curate echo chambers. They don't build institutions. They burn them down and then act shocked when nothing better just magically emerges, right? Beneath all that sloganeering and emptiness lies a deep, unspoken disdain for the people they claim to champion. They don't trust the working class to make our own decisions because the working class don't agree with them. The average worker doesn't care about abolishing the police. They want police that actually protect their neighborhoods. They want police that don't murder citizens. That's what they want, right? They want to be able to live a peaceful, stable life. Where the communist comes in, and notice I'm saying communist, not activist here. Where the communist comes in is in showing the way forward of getting that stable, peaceful life. But the sort of professional activist, in contrast to this, or I should say professional protester, whiner, because activism is something different. They don't care though, right? They'd rather lecture us from their moral pedestal than actually listen. And when the working class rejects their ideological zealotry, then the mask kind of slips, right? Suddenly, it's not about the proletariat anymore. It's not about liberation. It's about correcting their false consciousness, which by that they mean forcing them to agree with them, right? How progressive, you know? And the worst part about this all is that for decades, these people killed the actual left. In America, the reason when we got on the scene, we found the red banner on the fucking ground being trampled was because they put it there. By reducing socialism to a meme, by turning being an activist into a fashion trend, they've made it impossible for serious movements to gain traction. They've alienated the very people who should be their allies, all for the sake of stroking their own egos, right? Again, this is why we have to start below zero, right? We don't even get a zero to start at. We're starting at -10. We have to overcome all of their failures before we can begin. Look, I'm not telling you guys anything you don't know, right? Real change don't come from, stupid cringe posting on Twitter. It don't come from attacking the Communist Party. It don't come from typing 1,000 Ks when you type the word America. It comes from the hard, tedious work of organizing, of building institutions for our class. And it comes from winning, right? I mean, that's the bottom line. It comes from winning. But that requires humility, patience, and effort. And that's all things that the professional whiners kind of lack, That's why they're whining. So, I don't know. I don't think anything I say will ever get through to them, right? I mean, I've tried talking to them for years. I've tried being overly nice. I've tried being mean. I've tried being understanding. I've tried forcing real Marxism down their throats. Nothing really works with them, right? So I'm at the point now where I believe that history is going to sort of remember them exactly as they are, right? As sort of useful idiots of the status quo, too busy whining to ever actually change it.
High Sheriff Hazard is a hard man to be. High Sheriff is his only plan. He digs through pockets, takes what he can, for he's High Sheriff Hazard. He caught me one evening, and here's what he said: "You look like a Russian, you look like a red, and if you're fond of your skin and your head, beware the High Sheriff of Hazard." The answer is simple, the answer is clear. We all get together, ain't got nothing to fear. We throw the old bastard right out on his ear. Farewell to High Sheriff Hazard.
There he is. Holy shit, Sebastian. Trump and Elon are breaking up.
Dude, it's actually crazy. I mean, seeing all the screenshots is like,
wow.
I figured something might go down eventually, but I mean, this soon and this spectacularly is fucking crazy.
Messy public divorce, brother.
No
Messy
kidding.
public divorce. I'm hoping it's not like, was that who was that dude? For some reason I keep Johnny Appleseed is in my head, but it's not Johnny Appleseed, obviously. The Pirates of the Caribbean guy.
Oh, Johnny Depp.
Yeah. Was it his ex-wife that was like pooping in his bed?
There was that whole court case about like
right, like she pooped in her bed.
Yeah.
It was... I'm hoping that Trump and Elon don't have a bed poop situation.
Could be possible. You never know. Well,
wow. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Noah Show. I'm Noah. That's Sebastian, and we got a lot to talk about tonight. Especially Trump and Elon breaking up. Look, I want to like just break right into it because I've been my wheels have been turning all day about this.
We can't skip past your new haircut though.
Right. Well, discuss the important shit first, right? I'm swearing so much tonight. I apologize. I'll stop swearing. Yeah. No, I got a haircut today, actually.
Looks good. Looks good.
Thank you.
Good to be back after a couple of weeks. You had some nice time with your family last week, I think, right?
I did. It was my father. My father passed away in the early days of COVID, and it was his birthday. So we spent that weekend, like our whole family got together.
That's nice.
Which was nice. Except my sister and I started arguing about Stalin at one point.
As it goes.
Which is funny, like, because you know, it's a weird situation to have grown up in a pro-Soviet household.
Yeah.
And then have the Stalin argument. It takes on different characteristics because of this, right? But she was sort of just repeating like bourgeois nonsense about it. And I'm like, look. And she's gotten very libby lately. But like, she's one of the people that's like freaking out, saying like Trump is instituting fascism and we're all going to the camps soon. Like, she's like, no, you should be very worried about your position in the party. And I'm like, I mean, I'm not worried, but we're not going to any camps. Like,
yeah, and also you've seen what's been going on over these last 10 plus years, and you've decided now is the line that like we've stepped into fascism here. I mean, shit is certainly not good, but it's not been good for a while. And you know, people like Edward Snowden illustrated that to us quite clearly.
No kidding. And like, let's be for real. Biden did steal an entire election. We had an attempt to overturn that. I mean, there's a lot that goes into whether or not we are calling something legitimate democracy or not. And if that's how we describe fascism, I don't know.
They screwed over Bernie twice as well.
Yeah. So, you know, but the Dems are the good ones somehow. Yeah. No, but so we were arguing about Stalin, and she was like, well, look, like he was a brutal dictator and this and that. And I'm like, but sister, you know, like the problem with that word, right? Mm-hmm. Let's look at what you're actually talking about. Let's go over the 36th Stalin Constitution, you know, but she didn't want to do that. She wanted to instead like Google Stalin dictator and look for something to tell her she was right. So it's weird.
Yeah, I have these same conversations every time the word authoritarianism comes up. It's like it's just fundamentally rooted in a lack of understanding of the state and its function. Like,
exactly. And I have a sort of like a go-to that like anyone can use this. When your coworkers or someone bring this kind of thing up, go, okay, well, I will entertain your analysis of their system if it's actually important. And they'll of course say it's important. And you say, okay, give me any 3 random names of political offices in that country.
yeah,
And they will never be able to do it. And I do that because it's kind of it's a little, you know, not really rude, but it's not nice. But it gets them thinking, oh, wait a minute, I don't actually know anything about their government. I don't even know the names of the offices, you know? Or you even say, you know, like even my sister couldn't have named that. And she's very familiar with communist systems. So it's like when you do that, the idea is to get someone to begin thinking they don't really know what they think they know.
yeah, exactly. And a good point that I use to force this upon people is like the situation of Kim Jong Un. Like the average
Mm.
American, the average Westerner, and probably the vast majority of the people in the world think he's like this sort of unilateral dictator where he decides everything that's going on in the country. And I sent it to you over Telegram, but there's this nice graphic, and the sources are literally taken directly from Wikipedia, CIA.gov, and it just goes through the positions within the U.S. government.
Pull it up on stream.
Yeah, let me see if I can.
Because this is interesting. I'm looking at it now. It is really cool. I actually, it's what's funny is I was having believe it or not, I was talking about North Korea at work today. There's a new kid on my crew who's like super interested in history, and so I talk history with him all the time. And he said something about like because I was talking about the same Stalin issue and Trump and all this, and he said something. He was like, "Well, yeah, it's not like everybody's Kim. Like he's not Trump isn't Kim Jong Un." I'm like, well, let's slow our roll here. And a good one I use for that it to really like crystallize how people. Oh, we need a different view. People can't see that.
One sec. Yeah.
To really crystallize how people like here, I got you. How people think about that is the way media spins. What they do is they take like a little kernel of truth, right? And they blow it up and tell a lie around that. So, for example, Pyongyang time is a relatively recent phenomenon, right? The Free Korea changed its time zone to something else, something new. Now, our media said it was because Kim Jong Un is a crazy dictator, right? And he just was such a megalomaniac. He had to have his own time zone. But if you look into why they actually did it, it was because Korea was occupied by Japan. During that time, Japan changed the time zone to reflect the time in Tokyo, which is scientifically inaccurate. All they were doing was changing it to what was correct. And all that got blown out of proportion. Crazy hermit king, blah, 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 whatever, you know?
Yeah, can you see the graphic?
Yeah.
But basically, like the thing that I like to point out is you go down the list and it's like even Trump in our system, he has far more authority than what Kim can do. I mean, functionally, he's the head of the military and the head of the party. I mean, he has a lot of he's public facing a lot, but that's because of the legacy of his family and how important they are historically to the nation and how revered they are. Like, yeah,
100%.
you guys see him a lot, but that doesn't mean he's deciding everything.
And what they've been doing since the revolution there. So so Kim Il-sung, when they take power, the executive necessarily has wide-reaching powers, right? But every generation since then, and Kim Jong-un follows this tradition, they genuinely have the cut in half, rather, the powers of the executive. So Kim Jong-un splits, Kim Il-sung, the eternal president, splits all those powers between himself and another channel. So they're now halved. At Kim Jong-un point, or that was Kim Jong-il, right? At Kim Jong-un's point, it's that
No, we're not saying
in
this.
half. Yeah, no, you're confused. Well, Pharaoh, we're not saying that at all. Oh, okay. So, I don't know what's going on with the trolls, but whatever. I got thrown for a second.
Yeah, I'll stop streaming that. We're good.
Yeah, just take it up. It's interesting to me how these are the sort of people I was talking about in the intro, right? The sort of professional complainers. This guy, like, let's pull this up. Let's think about this. CPUSA, a defunct, liquidated party that no longer basically even exists, except in name, and who were at one point the legitimate communist party in this country, and then an anti-communist trot group, are both normal. And if you see what they post, it is far from normal. But then we're just ridiculous.
Also, you're literally putting
no
words in our
reason
mouth.
for it at all. What it no see that no one said that, you utter simpleton. Like, where do you get who said that? Quote that. You know what? I think we're going to skip a little bit, and we're going to tell this guy, if you have something to say, why don't you get in our voice chat right now and do it? Go into our Discord at discord.gg/MidwesternMarks, and we're going to put you, we're going to have a discussion, you and us.
And one of our slogans is literally, we're here for the burger, not the clown. We explicitly state that we don't think Trump is a revolutionary.
Yeah.
We think that the type of rhetoric he espouses takes the only form it has to in order for someone like him to win, because the MAGA movement and the base has seen through all the bullshit that the media is trying to feed them, and they've grown tired of institutions. So Trump literally has to say this stuff or he won't get elected. It's not about whether or not he actually wants to be a communist and, wants to help people,
Okay, so C Black Woodstone, get in the Discord right now. Right now. Sebastian, go into the what is it called? The call-in chat.
Yep.
And Sebastian is going to pull you into the live chat with me. If you can't do that, you surrender all your nonsense and basically admit that you're a loser that is doing this because you have no friends. That's I don't make the rules, those are the rules.
Just to bring this point back, like, it's just not true, is it? Because, like, you were talking about us starting from below zero, right, with the failures of the Western left, and that is absolutely true. But there is also one silver lining, and that is, functionally, these people serve as almost a counterexample. I've made serious inroads with a lot of people I've discussed. I've talked about this stuff with, specifically just by saying we're not them. And saying we represent the opposite of what you have in your head as, Western leftists or communists. So
yeah, the problem with it is that they sort of try to take ownership over this category of communist, left wing, etc. You got like 20 seconds left, dude. Come on, get it together. Stop wasting all our time. Anyway, we'll give him like, I don't know, 2-3 minutes, I guess. Maybe he doesn't understand how Discord works. Of course, Jace. I don't doubt it. Okay, so
also, just to address this, yes, it is.
Yep.
Typically, we open spaces generally like an hour after we start streaming. But we will be instituting a new segment, probably starting next week, where we're going to be collecting like mailbag questions. I have a Google form. I'm going to link it below, and we'll probably also post it as an announcement in the Discord. But we'll try to have a new segment where we just answer your general questions. Any thoughts, concerns, whatever you have about communism, the ACP, whatnot.
Yeah, which would be great. And by the way, I just kicked him out because here's the thing. They always get terrified when it comes time to back up any of the dumb shit they say.
Yeah. It's like that socialism for all guy refusing to debate Haas ever. It's like you
right.
talk
It's like
behind your mic, but
exactly. It's sort of like they want to complain and whine endlessly, but when it comes time to actually stand on business, all they do is fold. Immediately fold. Oh no, Pharaoh, that's terrible. Dude, stay away from all wizards. All wizards always. Drac, I only recently heard about this. I think that's cool. I think a drone for good camera shots is a great idea.
Yeah, it's awesome. I heard someone donated one in Eddie's last stream. That'll
Yeah,
be big
Red
for media
Maze, who's a
production.
huge. Yeah, he's awesome. I don't even remember what I was talking about now. I guess I get distracted by these idiots. I shouldn't.
Yeah, it was just I don't know some nonsense about the guy that just got kicked out.
They're exactly what the problem is, right? It's like all this guy wanted to do was whine and complain and not do anything. He had an opportunity right in front of him to, if he actually felt strongly about what he was saying, embarrass one of the leaders of the Communist Party live in front of thousands of people.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, as you said, they're just addicted to losing. Like a lot of these people, their analysis ends with Trump supporters being irredeemable bigots. And it's like, okay, if you have that perspective, then what's the point? What's the point in calling yourself an activist or progressive or anything if you're not actually trying to convince anyone except the people who already agree with you?
You're nothing. You're a whiner. You're doing it as a fashion statement. You're wearing a jacket.
Yeah, literally.
Right. But I want to go back to the like Trump and Elon Musk's breakup for a minute because, dude, this has been crazy. I want to. By the way, this is what we've been saying. Like,
we'll get to this later. By the way, we'll address this later in the stream.
Yeah. So here, hold on. Let me pull this into the other thing. Give me a second here. All right.
Yeah, we have some crazy tweets. Well, I guess Trump is not on Twitter anymore, but yeah, some back and forth between Trump and Musk.
Right? Oh, dude, it's getting kind of intense. So, Elon, this is, by the way, our buddy Ben. Says how it started versus how it's going. Elon saying, "I love real Donald Trump as much as a straight man can love another man."
4 months between these tweets, by the way. 4 months.
4 months for a complete about face. Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. That's the real reason they've not been made public.
Dude, and how are you going to say that when there are pictures of you with Ghislaine Maxwell? Like, are you kidding me? You're throwing stones from glass houses, man.
Oh my god. Dude, it's so funny. Dude, where's Trump's tweet about how Elon's getting government handouts?
Yeah, that's like, right above that one. That's the Geopolitics one.
And here's my thing. Did Trump just find this out? Like, he's like, oh my god, Elon's getting billions and billions of dollars in taxpayer money? Like, what? You put him in charge of government overreach and ending pointless bureaucracy and parasitic contracts and all of that. And now, oh, he's getting government handouts. Now that you're breaking up, now the dirt comes out. Like, Jesus Christ, man. I was never like super optimistic about Trump or Elon Musk, right? I have friends who feel differently about Elon Musk and think he was genuinely been mostly a progressive force. But dude, this is unreal. They're just going over all the bad stuff that they pretended didn't exist for a while, right? And what I want to know is if this is two things, and we can't really know yet, but one, is this real? Right? Is this a real separation from Trump and Silicon Valley? And if so, what else goes into it? Because there's a lot more to Silicon Valley than Elon, right? There's Thiel and Vance, who's his vice president, being Thiel's boy. Like there's a whole machine there that initially to me, it looked as if they saw the end of American empire and wanted to position themselves to pick up the pieces as it fell apart. Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah. 38 billion in government money is, by the way, that's crazy that like Elon's entire thing is built on. Just this last year, he got another $5 billion contract. Hank, is this true? I didn't hear about this part yet. Like this is ongoing as we're talking, by the way. Like they're tweeting at each other, like Elon's tweeting to like for everybody to call their senator and congressman about the big beautiful bill, and it's insane. But is this true? Like MAGA is calling for Trump to seize SpaceX. I think that's a great idea. Yeah. People who talk about MAGA as if they're all like ignorant hicks, that's a communist demand right there, you know?
And they're starting to break over Israel a bit as well. Like there's a lot of internal conflict within MAGA. And just view them as one hegemonic mass is to misstep yourself tactically. I mean, I think this whole EV thing, if we can break through and show them like China does it better and cheaper, I think they would be furious at the fact that they're pushing Musk's EVs for nothing. I mean, they're giving us a substandard product and only enriching these fucking idiots who are doing this.
100%. Look, we can talk about this all night. Unfortunately, we don't really have the time to do that, right? But I think the bottom line is that there are always contradictions within a ruling class. A lot of people look at communists and think like, oh, we see the world in black and white. But that's not true, right? Within the contradictions within the ruling class, factions form, right? Based on these contradictions that have to in some way resolve themselves, their material contradictions. And sometimes like a fracture begins to fracture, which is what this very well could be. And I, for one, am kind of here for it. Mm-hmm. I don't trust Silicon Valley. I don't trust Musk. I mean, it's not like I trust Trump, but I trust the organic intuitions of MAGA and Trump's need to appease MAGA in some way until he is revealed to be completely unable to actually fix all of the problems. Mm-hmm. And this is where we're going to get to his big, beautiful bill, because this is really what causes all the controversy and the crisis within MAGA and taking aside Elon or Trump, right? Because here's the thing, this big, beautiful bill, it has some cool stuff in it, but it also has some very terrifying stuff in it, right? Like a permanent extension of the 2017 tax cuts. Now, this is for everyone who makes above 500K, right? Now, if you think about where our country is at, it depends on what numbers you're looking at, but materially, concretely, we can say that between 65 and 78%, maybe even 80 of Americans right now work paycheck to paycheck. So the amount of people actually able to benefit from these tax cuts is tiny. Mm-hmm. Tiny, right? So where does he get the funding for this? Because this is over $1 trillion. Well, he takes it from Medicaid, right? Yep. He takes it from other entitlements. So part of this bill is a job requirement for Medicaid. A lot of the people on Medicaid, like my mother, can't work. My mother has stage 4 lung cancer and is 72 years old. How is she supposed to get Medicaid and have a job in order to qualify? That's insane. A good friend of the Institute's, JB from Revolutionary Blackout Network, just got a kidney transplant, and good for you, JB. We're all so happy for you. How is he supposed to get his Medicaid if he can't work? Right? They act as if these people himself was just saying that the vast majority of it goes to people like Elon Musk, right? Billions to these rich fucking parasites, crumbs to regular ass people like you and like me.
Yeah.
Whoa, this is, give me 1 second. Is this true too? Like Steve Bannon was suggesting that? That's funny.
That's something Bannon would say.
Go ahead, Sebastian.
No, just what I was saying is that sorry, I lost my train of thought. If you want to continue, I'll bring it back up if I remember.
No, that's fine. Look, Steve Bannon, it's funny because Steve Bannon is who made Trump who he is. Like, we got to be real.
I remember.
Steve Bannon once called himself a Leninist, by the way, which I think is kind of funny. But he's not. But still, it was his sort of political acumen that made Trump into a populist, that made that character who he was, that made him so popular. Because the reason Trump was ever popular in the first place is because he presented himself as fighting on the side of regular Americans against the elites. That is the overwhelming reason people liked him. Without Bannon, he was compromising more and more with the neocon and neoliberal establishment, right? And we get to this place now where after the Bannon and Trump divorce, this is like his third marriage in office. By the way, so the Bannon-Trump divorce was a big deal. Bannon got sort of like the American equivalent of exiled to Siberia, right? Like, he was just like kicked into Europe to hang out with a bunch of losers talking about like white superiority and other crazy nonsense that Trump wouldn't put up with, right? It's, I don't know. But so Bannon sort of creates Trump. That he would call for this, I think, is interesting to me because it's sort of I don't know. It brings him back into a conversation that I feel is why, like, that his presence in the first place is why Trump even became relevant. So I wonder if, like, since Trump is now single, if there's some sort of rekindling his first love kind of deal going on, right? I don't know. I'm just speculating, but
And to your point about the populism of Trump, I was thinking about this recently, and it might be wrong, but I almost feel like this MAGA base is like an extension of, and like the last gasp and progression of, like, the American apolitical tendency. It's like this reaction and rejection of all this political theater. And by the way of what he's been saying, they think he's almost like the last chance of, like, actually affecting things in their lives. And with stuff like Medicare, I mean, we have to point out these contradictions because the popular rhetoric has genuinely got people convinced that, like, they'd be paying more for a substandard product if we got universal healthcare, and that's simply not true.
100% not true. And here's the thing that sort of started the whole controversy that ends up in the divorce: the debt ceiling increase. Now, Elon's whole thing was, the government is wasteful, and he does this stupid thing where he's like where he compares all government to the DMV, right? Which is the dumbest thing in the world. Like, anyone above the age of 10 should be able to tell why that's dumb. But his whole thing was government is being wasteful, it's spending too much. And so which is funny when he's getting billions and billions of dollars that you and me make. So I don't know. But anyway, Trump puts a $4 trillion increase to the national debt, like the ceiling within this bill. And that's what pissed off Elon. Because what did Elon get brought in to do? Supposedly what his passion is, right? Curb government spending and waste and blah, 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 right? Kavari here asked a good question. If the left wants to create a big tent party, they should welcome back Elon. I don't think the left, like, are we talking about the left or the left? You know what I mean? One, I don't think Elon would be down with any sort of alliance. Two, I do not trust Silicon Valley. Three, if Elon wants to give us his money, we'll take it. Also, I'm not opposed to his whole free speech thing. I think that's good. I got to be real with you guys there. But I'm always very, very suspicious of people who have been parasites their entire life, like Elon. Like, let's be real. Like, the guy's never worked a single day in his life. He spends his whole life taking
Falling
credit
upwards.
for the work of better men.
Yeah, he's falling upwards the whole time. And to add on to your point about, Musk talking about governmental inefficiency, like, I mean, he knows what he's doing. He's being ignorant on purpose, but it's the failure of a particular outlook versus like a universal understanding of the state. Because in our system, this inefficiency, it's by design. Like, the ruling class benefits from defunding public services and institutions to make the private option look better. I mean, it's just propaganda, effectively. It's not inherent that any of these institutions have to be bureaucratic, ineffective, and wasteful, because we see other countries where that's not the case.
And the reason they're inefficient and wasteful sometimes, not always, but sometimes, is because the giant financial institutions are lobbying in order to defund them, so that private institutions that they have investments in can take their place, and they can make a buck off things like our children's fucking future. When you're trying to prey upon American children in order to get rich, you are a scumbag and an anti-American. And that is all you are and all you will ever be. Period.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, and just to that point, I saw a stat recently where it's like first-time homeowners in America, the average age has risen by 8 years since 2014, and it's like that's 8 years over the span of 11 years. And what do they expect? They're gonna keep us renting forever, and that's the plan.
Exactly. You will own nothing and you will be happy. Here's the thing. They may talk about the World Economic Forum as if they're the enemy, but the World Economic Forum, my friend, is the boss for them. They are boss, right? They are boss. But I want to just like briefly go through the rest of this because I want to get to our other big topic for the night. So one of the big things, look, I'm all for like drill baby drill, that kind of thing in America. However, the way it's done, and this is like there's an expansion of drilling rights and environmental regulation rollback, stuff like that. Some of those are literally put in place in order to force taxpayer money to be spent on specific enterprises owned by specific institutions. Rolling some of those back ain't a big deal because honestly, they're not really the environmental adjuster that they say they are. But the way that this gets done is a problem, right? Because what it's going to do is allow these same financial institutions and the like sort of mining enterprises and stuff like that they invest in to take control of American resources, right? And American land, which should be in the hands of the people. Now, the last thing I really want to, and there's a lot in this big, beautiful bill, right? Zoe is about to debate all of us. That's what Zoe, come in the space later. We'll talk. You know me, sister. Like I'm down to hear your perspective always, unless you weren't talking about us, and even if you were. Anyway, the thing I wanted to get to is the end of even talking about student debt forgiveness and even allowing student debt to be sort of postponed, right? Which shows who Trump is really serving. Millions upon millions upon millions of innocent American kids get thrown into college debt traps. They're then put in the thrall of these banks the rest of their lives, just in order to get an education they're told is the only way to earn a decent life and have a stable way of being. And here's the fact, that ain't the case, right? They still struggle paycheck to paycheck, and now they're in debt.
Yeah. And they don't even
when Trump does this, it's basically a middle finger to the American people. I don't know. That's my 2 cents on it.
No, it's insane. And like, even if you get a high paying job out of college, they have provisions that you can't pay off your debts fast enough, or else it like tanks your credit scores. It's ridiculous.
Right. And dude, and if you don't pay them off fast, they'll send the fucking IRS after you.
Yeah.
Now, let's also remember that Elon just defunded a whole bunch of the IRS. So good on you, Elon, for that one. But still, it's, I don't know. This big, beautiful bill ain't so beautiful, in my opinion. That's all.
Yeah. And it almost feels like defunding the IRS, like they'll still somehow have resources to come after us. They'll just be turning a blind eye to those with a lot more money. It's the whole like tax loophole division. They let them all go.
Yes. Yes. Oh, dude. Yes. All right. So Trump and Elon are getting divorced. Which side will you guys take in the divorce? Who do you think is going to get the dog? That's my question. Right? How is visitation going to be set up? Which one is going to pay the other alimony? Because think about it, dude. While Trump and Elon were together, Elon became accustomed to a certain way of life that he may need some sort of compensation ordered by the courts in order to still enjoy afterwards.
And you remember that black guy that Elon Musk had a few days ago? Maybe that was Trump. Just clocked him. Amended the EV subsidy, man. Out of here.
Yeah, look. Elon looks like the kind of guy that would get beaten by his husband. I'm just saying. Like, you've seen the way that guy's body is shaped. It's weird, right? It's not just meat. It's a weird shape of a body. And, like, look, Trump may be old, but he looks like he could still throw down.
Do you know what Elon reminds me of? Those cartoons where it's like those fat people and they take like a grill or like a metal like tray and they spray abs on themselves.
Yeah, dude. He likes like every AI art of him as like some kind of like muscular soldier. It's so ridiculous. Like, I don't think he understands how pathetic he looks liking all of those and reposting them. Oh, good point. Yeah, good point, Drac. All right. So let's switch gears, huh? Elon and Musk
one last
point. Well, who do you think is going to get custody of JD Vance?
Oh,
That's
yeah.
a good question.
Or maybe he's just going to go to the orphanage.
Little orphan JD.
Yeah, there was just one
looks like a fucking garbage pail kid. Like,
yeah,
let's
all
be
the
real.
memes
He
about
looks like
him.
a garbage pail kid.
Yeah.
Like slimy JD or whatever.
I think he was supposed to be the inheritor of the MAGA
JD, there you go. Sorry, go ahead.
And I think he was supposed to be the inheritor of the MAGA movement, but all these memes against him have completely like tanked his legitimacy in the eyes of the people. Like, he's almost like a joke at this point. And all this stuff about the Pope as well. He killed the last Pope by visiting him and all this stuff.
And this Pope just hates his guts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
this is hilarious, by the way. Hob says, I showed my mom a picture of shirtless Elon at some boat party, and she asked, why is his body shaped like that?
Yeah,
Because that's a legitimate question. Why is his body shaped like that? No one knows. No one knows the answer. It's like one of those questions that will stump humanity forever, right? Like, why is life, right? or why is there no cheese in the house of shrimp, right? It's one of those, like, there's no answer. Why is Elon's body shaped like that? We don't fucking know. It's a mystery. All right. So I sympathize with your mom, Hob. God damn it.
Yeah, and before we move on to either Ukraine or the settler stuff, there was just one last point I wanted to bring up about the bill, and that's the provisions on the AI.
Yo, make it real quick while I gotta run and take a call. It's an emergency.
Yeah. Let me see if I can bring this up. One sec. Share screen. Hope you guys can see that, but basically, like, they instituted provisions saying that for the next 10 years, I believe, yeah, states can't regulate AI, and they've also dog-eared $500 million from the Treasury towards, I don't exactly know what, but the development and deployment of commercial artificial intelligence. And I mean, this is not good news, just to put it lightly. Um, but I mean, this whole bill, I mean, it's projected to throw over 10 million people out of Medicare, Medicaid. It's going to allow them to do God knows what with the Palantir stuff. I mean, if you guys have heard of that, like, they're going to make a database about every American citizen supposedly, but hopefully we can point out the contradictions, because a lot of MAGA are up in arms about it. I mean, it's clear that a lot of people don't agree with it. And I mean, it only takes people to be positioned correctly when they overstep like this for us to catch them when they fall.
You know, it's funny. I assumed they already had all of these databases.
Yeah, literally.
I don't know. Like I remember, you know, Glenn Greenwald and Edward Snowden. And by the way, fuck you to everyone fucking with Glenn Greenwald right now. That man is a hero, and what he does in the privacy of his own home is not your fucking business,
Literally.
you piece of shit.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. That's all I have to say on the matter.
1000%.
All right.
Yeah, and also, yeah, the database stuff, I mean, maybe this could just be a matter of like legitimizing it publicly, because I'm sure, yeah, something like this already exists in private, but if they can get approval from it officially, then when all this controversy comes out and is inevitably exposed, they can say, hey, you guys signed off on it. We told you it existed. Yeah, all right.
Look, Americans like their privacy. And this is one of the big problems people have always had with AI and with the internet in general, is people messing with our privacy.
Mossad.
Just like they did with Glenn Greenwald.
Mossad.
There was a video that I think an ex of his leaked or something that probably Mossad, Jenny Lynn, you're right. That political scum tried to use to smear him. And he'll come out of this squeaky clean, because what's important about Glenn Greenwald isn't his bedroom. It's his reporting. It's the fact that he actually speaks up and confronts the powerful in our society and does so effectively. And that's why they went after him. That's why they go after the Communist Party, right? That's why they go after Jackson. That's why, I mean, think, guys, come on.
Yeah.
The capitalists do not go quietly.
And it's unfortunate that I even have to bring this up, but this Glenn Greenwald stuff throws a spanner in all the arguments of the anti-ACP haters, because clearly his identity doesn't mean squat to us, where we're going to support him regardless, and we acknowledge the great work he does. I mean,
hell yeah.
It's specifically about us saying that it's not an issue of class politics. Like this identity stuff, you can have your own position, you can do whatever you want in the privacy of your own home, it doesn't matter. But you drawing the line and saying your identity is inherently revolutionary and you're not going to organize or even talk to Trump supporters because they're bigots, that's not class politics, that's your own theater.
Yeah,
It's a game
and it's the people I was complaining about in the beginning, right? They're not interested in winning. All they want you to do is validate them, and us, we don't care, and that's what bothers them. Like for all their talk of they just want to live their normal lives, what they do, and I'm talking specifically about liberals, not trans people, whatever. I'm talking about liberals. What they want is you to treat them like they're special, basically, right? They believe they are special in some way, and so want you to treat them like that. And when you say, we don't care, if you want to fight the ruling class with us, come along, brother, come along, sister, let's fucking get to it, right? But that ain't what they want. They don't want to fight the ruling class. They want the ruling class to validate them. That is what they want. That's all they want. They want their individual, personal proclivities to be told they're good. And frankly, that is just individualism. At the end of the day, it's just being concerned with yourself. I don't know.
We certainly welcome everyone to the party.
Hell yeah. All right, let's do this. Let's set up our space and we'll begin our Sakai thing on the space. What do you think?
Yeah, sure. Sounds good. We can also briefly mention the stuff with Ukraine and Russia. Because, I mean, that's a pretty significant development.
Go ahead. Go into it, brother. I'll set this up while you do.
Yeah, I mean, there's just a few things to go over. Obviously, probably everyone's heard of the drone attack. But the main issue with that is because of nuclear treaties or whatever, any nuclear armaments or fighters, I believe, have to be stationed out visibly. And Ukraine took advantage of this and effectively launched a terroristic attack on Russia's fleet by, sneaking drones out of a train car or railway car or something like that. And they also not simultaneously, but along the same time, had an attack on the bridge in Crimea, the 18 long kilometer bridge. And I don't know. It's worrying because it's very clear Putin is incredibly upset about this, and maybe we can bring up his statement. I'll send it over to you.
All right, Sebastian. Yeah, do that. But Sebastian, the space is up.
Yep.
So can you grab a link and give everyone a link? Everyone file into the space. All right.
Yep, I'll do that. I sent you over the link to Putin's thing, but hopefully this doesn't result in an escalation of the SMO, because it's clear, like, Ukraine, the US, the Western side is not acting in good faith. They're trying to provoke and escalate the situation. And I mean, how much more can Russia take? I don't know.
No kidding, man. All right, let's listen to it.
В этих условиях подобные встречи. О чем говорить? Кто вообще ведет переговоры с теми, кто делает ставку на террор, с террористами? И за что их поощрять, предоставляя передышку в боевых действиях, которая будет использована для накачки режима западным оружием, для продолжения насильственной мобилизации и подготовки других террористических актов, подобных тем, которые были осуществлены в Брянской и Курской областях.
Yeah, and following these attacks, the drone attack, the bridge attack, the demands given to Ukraine by Ukraine to Russia are absolutely absurd, regardless of the context, but especially in the context. Like they want Russia to cede all of their territorial gains, as if Russia has any reason to do that, and as if that won't be disastrous for them geopolitically. I mean, Putin, if that's the case, then he will have massively overextended himself, and this could actually lead to a loss of legitimacy. I mean, why would they do that? And on top of that, there are demands for allowing Ukraine into NATO, which was the whole point of the SMO in the first place, and allowing for foreign troops to be stationed in Ukraine. Like, I don't know, the absolute gall of Zelensky is absurd.
And the really sad thing is Trump's handling of the situation, trying to act like a tough guy. I don't know. Look, throughout the SMO, Russia has held all the cards. What this is to me is a desperate sort of last gasp. They're being forced into the peace talks now because they've been eliminating their own people in a pointless war of aggression in order to try to exterminate Russians. Like, if you actually listen to the way these Nazis talk, that's how they talk, how they have to cleanse the world of the Muscovite menace and all kinds of gross shit. So look, I think, and you have to be careful what you say on YouTube about this, but I think that there's no world where Ukraine comes away from this hole anymore. There was before the Nazis pushed too much, and maybe they were being pushed by the West. But go ahead.
Yeah, if you have to stream the space.
Oh yeah, I do, don't I?
So that you can hear me through the stream.
Yeah. Good point. All right, let's share this one. Sorry, everybody.
I'll mute my mic when you share it so I don't get my audio doubled up.
Sounds good. All right, it's being shared now. But we're going to go to a different view. Because you guys don't need to see the space. Who cares what it looks like, right? All right. So we got the space going. Everybody share and like the space, and we'll get some people in here. I want to talk in the space about Jay Sakai and this settler colonial thesis that sort of makes the rounds on social media every couple years, and it's always the same nonsense every time it does. Now, the traditional meme, right, is read Settlers. You got to read Settlers, bro. I've read Settlers. It is a nonsense book full of lies, and dishonest presentation of data. It claims to have some connection to Marxism and communism when it throws basic Marxist concepts and categories in the trash at the very beginning of the book. The very beginning of the book takes the concrete category of Marxism, the proletariat, and all that entails, all the development of history leading to the revolutionary agent of the working class, those involved in industrial labor that have a material interest in ending class society, tosses all that in the garbage, tosses the advent of generalized commodity production in the garbage, tosses value in the garbage, tosses all of this aside and says, no. What we're going to call proletariat is just the people we consider most oppressed. And this makes the entire thing arbitrary. Oppression isn't a quantifiable category the way, say, exchange value is, right? It's an abstract. It's necessarily an abstract because it's a social relation that implies power, which is downstream from the material, right? So when you're speaking of oppression, you're speaking of something that isn't a concrete notion of the phenomenon because it's leaving pieces out. It's leaving steps in how it became what it is out. So when Sakai does this, he spits in the face of all Marxist analysis, right? And he continues to do so throughout the rest of the book. Now, if anyone wants to try to debate me on this, I welcome you. But I want to just, give you guys a few snippets. So, on page 13 and 14, Sakai claims that, quote, the majority of white settlers owned slaves directly or benefited directly from slavery. The problem with this is that it overstates the proportion of whites involved in slave ownership. The whole point of the book is to tell us that people with white skin aren't actually working class. They're inherently reactionary because they somehow benefit from the oppression of others, right? Now, when he says this, that the majority of white settlers owned slaves or directly benefited from slavery, it really overstates the proportion of people with white skin involved in slave ownership. Just before the abolition of slavery in 1860, less than 8% of American families owned slaves, even in the South, right? So we don't include the states that have outlawed slavery. Fewer than 25% of white families owned slaves. Most white workers in the North obviously weren't slaveholders and had to compete with the slave-based economies. This contradiction between the slave production, which could not keep up with industrial production, is one of the things that spurred on the Civil War, right? So he gives us basically what amounts to a misleading generalization. He talks about them benefiting somehow from slavery, but only includes the actual bourgeois class, right? Which is wild to me. Just as another example, around, I think it was page 38 that this section begins, maybe more like 40, but somewhere in there. He talks about how by the way, he calls them Euro-American with a K workers, and says that they were the world's most bourgeoisified working class. Now, number one, if he throws away the category of the proletariat, he also, by necessity, throws away the category of bourgeois, right? So we're operating on a word he hasn't defined his terms for. What he really means is materially well off, which, one, isn't true, but two, he gives us no like wage rates, no comparison to support his claim, right? Now, US wages on average were higher than in Britain, right? But that varied like crazy by region and by industry. And the reason we were getting higher wages specifically in the 1830s and 40s was because the unions were forming and strikes were common, right? Like the Lowell Mill Girls, right? The early labor unions and combinations. So what he's doing there is basically working backwards from his assertion and trying to just give us jibber jabber to prove it, right? Just another one. He says that, like really early on page 8, he says the majority of early white settlers were not oppressed peasants or workers, but members of the petty bourgeoisie fleeing class struggle in Europe. Now, I don't know if any of you guys have studied mass immigration to America, but this literally throws in the trash all migration research in the entire world, which shows that most of the early settlers were landless poor, they were indentured servants, they were religious refugees, that kind of stuff. Some of them were middle classes, right? Like a more well-off peasant, but most were not. Especially the indentured servants who came here and did the same thing, entered indentured servitude. Half of all white migrants to colonial America were indentured servants during this era. So he completely lies about the class composition in order to deny any proletarian presence, right, among the white Euro-American settlers. You know, it's wild the way this works, man. I don't know.
I mean, a lot of these people very obviously left during times of strife. I mean, look at Ireland, for instance. There's so
Mhm.
many millions of Irish immigrants that came during the, you know, most disastrous period in their recent history.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Like you can. I mean, the Irish mass immigration, the Italian mass immigration, Chinese mass immigration. You can connect it all to crises of capitalism happening in other countries, right?
Mhm.
Where landless peasants and proletarians were fleeing, or you have religious groups. That was really big, fleeing religious persecution to America, which was founded on the notion of religious freedom, right? So I don't know. Michelle, if you have questions about this, hop in the space. Like we'll talk it out. We'll go over it because I've gone through this book and it is always being dishonest to you in some way. Just as another example, I forget what the page was here. I can look it up real quick. It's hard for me to reach my keyboard. Hold on. There we go. All right. So page 76. He begins lying about William Z. Foster, one of the greatest heroes of American history that we never hear about. William Z. Foster did what no one said was possible in organized steel. He was one of the greatest leaders of the old Communist Party in this country before we reconstituted, and a personal hero of mine. He was absolutely a upstanding character, fought his entire life for the working class and against racism. Sakai basically paints him as a KKK member. For real, he does. What he does is takes a pamphlet that that Foster wrote on the race relations in the steel strikes, complaining about the problem of racism, and cuts it off, tries to make Foster sound racist, and then literally calls him KKK. What Foster was actually saying was that the bourgeoisie was using black scab labor specifically in order to inflame race tensions within the workers' struggle. So what they wanted to do, what he was trying to fight, and he was writing to Samuel Gompers in order to try to help get in to help against this, was the bourgeoisie were trying to like turn this class struggle into a race struggle between workers, right? And what Foster suggests doing, which worked, was to offer the black workers positions within the union to promise, because let's think about it. This steel strike is going on. The boss brings in black scab labor during segregation, right? So you got these white workers who all they see of these black workers is them scabbing and ruining their struggle. All the black workers see is a bunch of racist white guys, right? That's a recipe for tension. So Foster is trying to say that if we make as one of our demands the black workers' entry into the union, and the union decides on who gets the jobs, then we bring both colors into the class struggle against their real enemy. Sakai distorts this and just calls him racist. Right? It's wild. He misquotes and makes up quotes from Lenin throughout the book. He even literally uses a quote from Marx and says that Lenin said it. This is how little the guy actually knows about Marxism. Whenever we're reading anything, we need to remember that anyone can write a book.
Mhm.
Anyone can lie. And we have to be very critical about what we're reading. I don't know. What do you think about all this, Sebastian?
And don't we literally not even know who the hell the guy is?
No, we don't.
Like, that's the craziest part. He could literally be a CIA agent, and these
Mhm.
leftists are lapping it up.
There's
But I
actually
mean,
some pretty compelling evidence that He's multiple people that have deep connections to the deep state, believe it or not. But,
Yeah,
you know,
wouldn't be surprised.
it's all circumstantial, nothing concrete. So take it for what it is.
Ye-
He's never revealed his face. Look,
And even going back to the Foster thing, like for him to criticize him is insane. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but Stalin himself deeply respected Foster and allowed him
oh yeah,
to dedicate one of his texts to him.
yes, 100%. Foster was a hero of the working class all over the world. If Foster was racist and KKK, why was he running for president on the Communist Party ticket with black men during segregation? Why was he? And yes, the theory was flawed, but why was he promoting the black belt theory, right? Which was that black Americans deserved their own nation, right? No, he was in an era where we hadn't developed enough to actually know that that theory was flawed. It held a little bit of water at the time. But like, it's silly. We should always do what my dad said. Ask Lenin's question. Cui bono? Who benefits? What is the actual implications of Sakai's book here? It is the entire American working class, or the vast majority of it, is inherently evil, backwards, and ignorant, and should be struggled against. That's what it is. So it leads you either to nihilism and doing nothing, or fighting on behalf of the bourgeoisie. So calling yourself a communist and saying read Settlers is brain dead. Beyond not being able to pick out all the lies, all the misrepresentations of statistics, etc. Even just taking it at face value and seeing what the actual implications are in the real world should tell you this is a counter-revolutionary book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, not only does he just explicitly lie, and a lot of his conclusions are wrong, these people in their analysis are always arrested in time. I mean, as you said, the black belt theory held some weight, but that was prior to the Third American Revolution. I mean, the material conditions are very obviously different compared to back then. And to hold on to these things is just reactionary.
Oh yeah, 100%. Now, I want to go to his very silly and childish like sort of left-wing version of trickle-down economics that he does. It starts on page 65 where he says that only white workers, by the way, so like black workers, brown workers, everybody else, they're safe from this for some reason. But white workers in the US are not a proletariat because they receive super profits from third world exploitation. I don't think he understands, and well, he obviously doesn't understand the process of value creation because he thinks that we shouldn't have to read Marx, right? So when he talks about benefit, the problem with not reading Marx, not knowing how value is created, not knowing what profit is, not knowing what surplus value is, etc., is you can't then talk about these categories. You can't talk about super profits. You can't talk about the proletariat benefiting or not benefiting because all you have is an abstract, vague guess. You just think that, oh, America exploits other countries, so they bring that wealth back here and it gets divided among the workers. That ain't how it happens, right? It's wildly inaccurate. Again, 68 or 65 to 78% of Americans right now struggle paycheck to paycheck. Over 90% of Americans are in debt. That means they own nothing or less than nothing. Less than nothing, right? Not to mention precarious employment, all that. This super profits nonsense is him misreading everything. There's no such thing as some like white secret society where the boss gets together with all the white people and splits profits up among them, right? There are parasitic professions which draw on the profits of the productive economy. But this includes everyone of every skin color. There's no skin color separation in how it works, right? The problem is he has a guess and he just kind of states it without giving any reasoning, any logic, any statistics to say that he prove that he's correct.
Mm-hmm. It's like when the legacy media goes on about how the economy is so great. Mm-hmm. It's like, open your eyes, look at our cities, look at our roads. It's very clear this money is not flowing down to us. I mean, it's just an absolutely absurd assertion.
Yeah, seriously, it's wild, man. So let's see here. On page 11, he says he quotes Lenin saying labor in the white skin can never free itself as long as labor in the black skin is branded. Anyone want to tell me what's wrong with that Lenin quote? It's a Marx quote. How do you get that wrong? Jesus.
And also just, how do you not advance the analysis to the modern day? I mean, they're no longer the same class, the same underclass that Marx referred to. We had a literal revolution. We underwent a transformative process to ensure that that's not the case, that there are not these material barriers between, members of the working class.
Not only that, he treats modern America like this. Marx was talking about chattel slavery, and he was 100% correct, right? And he wasn't saying that chattel slavery will always exist and white people are bad the way Sakai does. No, he's saying it is structurally impossible for labor to actually attain freedom while there's chattel slavery. So white people ain't going to just be free while we had slavery. Could not happen. Did not happen, right? It held back the advance of the forces of production that creates the conditional requirements to even speak about freedom, right? So after the Civil War and after the revolution we call the Civil Rights Movement, this quote needs to be seen in a different manner, right? It has to be seen through the eyes of the children of Martin Luther King Jr., which is all of us in the 21st century. Despite all of the neo-Nazi astroturfing, right? Despite all of the scum and anti-human garbage of groyping and whatever other nonsense, America, real America, working class America, is less racist than it has ever been in its history. And this is the best way to understand how wrong Settlers is. Because what Settlers does is makes racism ontologically unquestionable. However, we have seen class struggle against racism driving forward almost all progress in America to the point where we're at today, where segregation is no longer legal, where chattel slavery is no longer legal. This fight was led by the black working class with allies from all races, to the point where right now we have the conditions where the united struggle for communism is possible, where in the past it was not, right? It's wild. I don't know.
I also highlighted a comment if you want to discuss this. I mean, this is the whole point, right? Like, we're not against poverty. We're not against people being rich. Like, we're advocating for prosperity. If we redistributed, that means that we'd be under a socialist system.
Oh, what's up, Diego?
That we have the capability and capacity to enrich the lives of our people, and we're not. The quality of people's lives is constantly decreasing.
Yeah. Yo, our good friend of the Institute, Diego's requesting to speak. I just approved it for you, Diego. I don't know if you guys have heard of Diego Rizaron before, but you probably should have. What's up, brother? How you doing?
Hey, Noah. What's up, my friend? Hey, Sab. How are you guys?
Good.
Good, how are you?
I feel like we haven't talked in forever, man.
Yeah, we haven't talked. I had it lately.
You cut out for a minute. What was that?
Yeah, I had a talk with Jackson Hickle lately. Like, I think like 2 weeks ago.
Oh, cool. I'll have to check that out. Was it on your show or his?
Actually, on his show, it's called I don't know, like Usual Suspects. He had like a movie name, something like that. It's a cool podcast.
Awesome. Legitimate targets. Yeah, I love it. It's great.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
Or am I getting
you're
cut
cutting
off?
out a little bit, but you're okay.
Guys?
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Can you hear
Go
us?
ahead. I think he can't hear us.
Yeah, you're clear now if you can hear what we're saying.
Diego, brother, where are you at? Okay, well,
We can just keep him as a speaker.
yeah,
and
we will. Why does X always suck?
Yeah.
I feel like we have friends that show up from forever. Like I haven't talked to him forever. I'm like excited to talk to him, but yeah, nothing apparently.
Yeah, it's that balance between Discord because it's like it's a lot harder for people to find us there and just join. But X always seemingly has an issue.
No kidding. And by the way, everybody go check out Diego on Legitimate Targets. I'm sure it's great. I'm probably going to listen to that while I'm at work tomorrow.
Guys, can you hear me? I think my
Yes, we can
internet was
hear
kind
you
of
now.
unstable. I don't know if you're still there.
No, we're
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
Can you hear us? Ah, crap. Let me message him. I don't know if I can actually. Do me a favor, Sebastian. Message Diego. Oh yeah, I can. Yeah, I can. Hold up. I gotta pull my keyboard over.
He left and requested again. Maybe that'll
Oh,
fix it.
okay. That's easy. That's way easier.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Hello? Hear us?
We've heard you the whole time,
Ah.
man.
Yes, sorry, man. I think my bad. I got connected. I was getting out of a hotel, so I just starting to get caught up on these divorce dads getting into a fight, and I just wanted to remind everybody that we should really worry about the stepkids. And I think Javier Milei in Argentina is probably going to be in foster care very very soon, as with besides a bunch of libertarians that won't know who to side with in this debate.
Very good point. We were talking like who's gonna get custody of JD Vance, do you think, and Peter Thiel and all of those
Yeah.
guys?
Well, I mean, getting serious about this, I think this is not the first time historically that we get a fight between the ruling power of the state and the intent of capital. But what I think is also important for us to keep in mind is the fact that it doesn't matter who represents the interest of capital. The interest of capital is more like an objective force. It's a material force that is not necessarily conditioned and or motivated, nor is it in a way limited by human moral or human values or human intention. Like the intention of capital is more like a self-guiding system by itself, a thing in itself. So in that sense, I think the only way this fight can end, in the end, it's in the direction and the intention of capital. And we're probably going to see who is going to get sacrificed in the process. If Elon Musk is truly representing the intention of capital currently, as in we are moving towards a more libertarian system or an even further neoliberalism where the state is fully, in a way, undermined by the intention of capital, or if Elon Musk gets sacrificed and we see probably as Gianni Varoufakis has explained before, a rise of a potentially more techno-feudalism where the Silicon Valley guys are going to be siding with Musk on this debate.
You know what? I very much disagree with Varoufakis's techno-feudalism concept, but
Yeah, same.
I don't really disagree with him here. I believe. Look, it's speculation at this point. We don't know how it's actually going to play out. But I try to think of Musk as part of the Silicon Valley cartels, right?
Mm-hmm.
Silicon Valley sees capital accumulation differently from the rest of the ruling class and has sort of stepped outside during this era as its own faction within that, right? So within the contradictions within the ruling class, it's really becoming its own thing. It relies on government handouts, but is ideologically disposed towards hating that fact and hiding it about itself.
Yeah,
So,
I think. Sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead. It's all right.
Yeah, what I think is interesting about your comment, Noah, is that what people need to keep in mind is that not necessarily because Trump is threatening Musk with I don't know, like nationalizing SpaceX or
Mhm.
taking away the rockets from the rocket guy is moving us closer to any dialectical overcoming or ashhaven of capitalism as a meta mode of production. But the fact is that the government of the U.S. is a fully instrumentalized arm of capital. It's almost like an extra libertarian step. The government of the U.S. is not in any way like like Professor Richard Wolff explains very well. People tend to believe this bullshit of the government does stuff is socialism, and if the government does a lot of stuff is communism. Not necessarily in this case, because the government of the U.S. is completely co-opted by the interest of capital. Like neoliberalism is so predominant in the U.S. that the U.S. nationalizing SpaceX is only going to work in favor again in the capitalist class. It's not necessarily going to benefit any revolutionary movement. It's more us understanding what is the opportunity that is being presented to us as a potential revolutionary classes and as individually revolutionary subjects to seize this opportunity to actually do something in the light of things.
I mean, that's a really good point. At the end of the actually, Sebastian, what are your thoughts on this before I chime in?
No, you can continue. I mean, generally, my thoughts are along the same line. I mean, it's the same thing with the MTA, right? This stuff being in the hands of the people is just an excuse for private contracts, various things to enrich themselves. I mean, it's not actually going to benefit us.
Exactly.
Right, like it's sort of the old dogma, right? Like nationalization under capitalism doesn't really mean much, right?
Yeah.
What it means is that there is a possibility, though, like concretely speaking, there's a possibility that Trump and Silicon Valley, which was a very dangerous alliance to begin with, could be ending, right? And I think it's ending mostly because the plans aren't working out, right? I see Silicon Valley as looking after Silicon Valley first and foremost. Trump is not beholden to the interests of that cartel, but to his base mostly, and to his rhetoric, and to, I mean, you could say his ego, but he's got a lot more that he has to look out for. And I think it's going to sort of, it's really a symptom of a deeper problem within the ruling class and fire sector that finance cannot accommodate Silicon Valley much longer, which means, like you were saying, Diego, that there's an opportunity for us to genuinely step in here as this alliance falls apart and sort of enact MAGA communism, right? I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, my other question would be: do you guys think like the auto industry it's in any way related to this movement? Because I know at the moment Trump is trying to come up with a deal with Xi Jinping in China, and the inflow of especially cars coming from China, BYD and MG and all these major brands coming in like with hundreds and thousands of cars at the same time, and Tesla losing stock value so quickly. Do you think there's any like other deals coming in behind that may have drawn a wedge between Trump and Elon?
I don't see how that could be 100% the case, because I mean, Trump was responsible for one of the big rises in Tesla stock, if you remember.
Yeah.
There was very much an obvious quid pro quo going on when he first joined the Trump team. So, like, I don't know if it's that black and white that, like, maybe Elon is concerned that Trump trying to bring some sort of Chinese materials for manufacturing here and Chinese cars here would sort of get in the way of. But I don't know if it could be more like a little of column A, a little of column B, right? I think that regardless, Trump is going to have a very hard time even dealing with our currently organized auto workers, let alone creating millions more auto workers that are going to demand what our auto workers now get there's no way for him to. The real problem is that there's no way for him to bring that production here without lowering the living standards of not just auto workers, but most production in the process in order to compete with Chinese manufacturing. And in order to do that and be able to compete, there has to be some sort of balancing out on the back end. There has to be some sort of big government subsidies, right? And this is one of the reasons I think it could be affecting the Elon situation in a different way, right? Because this is completely against Elon's ideological zealotry, right? Trump isn't really an ideological zealot like Elon is. I don't know. What do you think, Diego?
I mean, I'm always very careful on trying to like paint people ideologically, because I take the notion of material basis and ideological superstructures very seriously, and in that sense, I don't think in the traditional sense of freedom, as people reason and people try to appeal to humanistic and illustrated values. I really believe we are materially determined. And in that sense, I think they're just acting out whatever class interest they have at the moment. Even if they could come up with ideological explanations, they always come too late. And trying to come up with a kaleidoscopic explanation of what is happening. I do think that the car industry plays a role, at least tactically, to Trump and to Elon Musk. I think it's a coin of negotiation with Trump and China, but it's also something that Elon desperately needed from the government of the US in order to sustain the stock of Tesla. And now we're seeing the stock value plummeting, and so it was related. But then on the other end, something we cannot rule out is the relationship with the Epstein file and the interest of other factions that are underpinning or implied in the functioning of the deep state in the US. I mean, you cannot rule out any interest from Mossad and the way we are seeing conflicts on the other end of the world, and the fact that they could benefit a lot from this disruption, even as a smokescreen to have some sort of diversion from everything that is going on.
One of my worries is that the sort of all-out attack on Trump by the deep state has really softened in the most recent months. But this is a weakness within his camp that they could spring on as well. I mean, it's hard to speculate on that kind of stuff, but it's not like they're not known for throwing everything and the book at Trump. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we cannot rule it out for sure. I mean, it seems like Trump is playing game. I mean, playing ball with the deep state. The way I see it is that he's much more domesticated now, and it always happens once you get into power. There's so many subtle intentions and subtle efforts and coercion that is going on that we'll never know about to justify these movements. I think, for example, the crypto market started plummeting in the last few days as a sort of a heads up for this coming up. And the fact that today also we have the response from Russia against Ukraine, it's a very, very interesting day. Like I always remember this quote from Lenin that you have centuries where and then you have weeks where centuries happen.
Yeah. That's one of my favorite quotes, believe it or not. It's wild. Look, it seems like things are accelerating right now, and I don't know. For me, it only spells opportunity, right? Like, I'm never going to not take advantage of the problems of my enemies. And the ruling class in general, as crazy as that may sound, are my enemies, especially my own ruling class here in the USA. I mean, I'm one of the leaders of the American Communist Party. And so if we can use this as a way to really ramp up, even if it's just rhetorically, our sort of political maneuvering, I don't
agree.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no. I didn't want to interrupt it. I just want to say I agree with your point. We have to be very smart about the opportunity.
Yeah, well, and that's just it. And this is why I don't like we've been doing a lot of speculating on what could be going on here, but speculating on a situation like this could also be volatile in that regard, right? Like, I don't.
Yeah, we have to be careful.
Exactly. Like, I don't want to make any moves or declarations that end up biting us in the ass in the future, because the crackdowns are already beginning. Like, we're
Yeah.
already prevented. I mean, Jackson, who you just spoke to, is prevented from even coming home. You
I
know,
know. Yeah. No, my friend, I have around like 15 more minutes. Do you mind if we open up the mic, make it maybe take some questions? I don't know if you guys do that.
that's
we
what this space is all about, brother.
Awesome.
Anyone who wants to ask questions, wants to try to debate, just request and we'll bring you up.
Just be educated and polite.
I have a question of my own, actually. I mean, Trump made the post, and he implied directly that it was the unsustainability of the EV mandate that drove a wedge between them. But
Yeah.
how much do you guys think that just Elon Musk's lack of potential to garner him, political capital or legitimacy running out is to blame for this? Because I mean, he's almost become a liability optically, and I don't
I
know.
think
That might be his motivation in part.
I think that these things can never be reduced to one problem like that. It may be the straw that broke the camel's back, but there was something else already going on that was sort of prompting this, right? And who knows what all this is? It could be exactly what we were just talking about. It could be something private. It could be something personal. What do
Yeah,
you?
we don't know how many enemies Elon made during his stay in the White House. Probably he made a
Precisely.
lot of enemies. Yeah,
I'm sure he did. The guy's an antisocial clown. I mean,
exactly. Yeah.
like, let's be real. Like, he's not known for his ability to speak to people, to talk to people on their level. He's known for just being an aloof ass who orders people around. And people in Washington take their power seriously.
Yeah, true.
All right. So who's got questions? Where's our no? Is this the first time I've ever done a space where no one has questions?
Yeah, anyone who wants, just request to speak, and I'll accept you.
Right?
Yeah, and even if you want to do it in Spanish, I mean, I don't mind, because I see a lot of my followers on the show. If you guys want to say something in Spanish, that's cool as well. Just raise your hand.
If you're gonna speak Spanish, do it slowly so I can understand you.
yeah, I promise. I'll do my best.
I can't speak it very well, but I can understand it when it's slow.
And Noah, if you wanted to fill in the time while we're waiting for questions, the last thing we have on our topic sheet is just the John Redcorn thing. If you want to briefly,
Yeah, dude, Diego, did you hear about that?
No.
So did you ever watch King of the Hill?
Yeah, for sure.
One of my favorite shows growing up. The guy who played John Redcorn, and also played I forget his name on Parks and Recreation.
Oh yeah, he's awesome.
He recently got murdered.
What?
Yeah, by a neighbor of his who I guess they'd been beefing for a minute, right? And I guess and who knows all the details, but it began because John Redcorn is gay, right? And I can't believe I can't remember his real name right now. But I feel like I'm doing him honor by calling him John Redcorn. So the beef just escalated and escalated, and the guy actually burnt down the dude and his husband's house. And when they went back to get mail, they found the skulls of their dogs, like arranged on display. And then he got shot while picking up mail.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Absolutely
I think the social tension in the U.S. at the moment is at a dangerously high level. I mean, it's incredible. Like the way I see it is that at the moment what we have, especially with the question that Elon posed today on Twitter, asking for a third party to be created that actually represented the 80% people that is in the middle. It's insane, man. Because we could call that like reactionary centrism. And I was writing a text about this a couple of weeks ago. And the etymological root of the word radical, when you say radical, it comes from the Latin radice, like root, which means the root of the world, the root of the concept. So when you say radical, you're meaning people that are trying to adhere or to go back or stay closer to the etymological roots of what they're defending, either ideologically, philosophically, or politically. And something that we have today is this very weird phenomenon of reactionary centrism. and it's insane because we could easily place like people like Hassan Piker, Ayok, o sea, Alejandro Osorio Cortez, even Bernie Sanders, and now Elon Musk. Because Elon Musk is proposing the creation of a third party that represents the 80% of the American. But what is completely insane to me is that this reactionary centrism, they don't understand that the political inefficacy of the US, it's a symptom of the fact that both parties represent the interest of capital. They just represent the interest of different wings of capital. It's either technocratic or nationalistic capital, but they represent the interest of capital. And people, these stupid reactionary centrists, they dream of proposing a third way solution to something that can only be solved by appealing to the true working class, by talking about who owns what, who can work where, the rights of the worker, a true communist movement. But this reactionary centrism is absolutely insane to me. Like when I listen to Elon Musk talk about politics, I mean, not only the fact that he's borderline retarded, but like being a reactionary centrist today, it's placing people together that I will never thought to put in under the same bucket. Because I could easily tag Hassan Piker, Alejandro Osorio Cortez, and Elon Musk and Bernie Sanders as reactionary centrists, because they don't stand for anything. Like their political position is that let's do the least amount of political change necessary for things to stay the same. This is what they want.
Oh, 100%, brother. And I think it's interesting that you throw all of them in the same category because I do too. Right. And I always have. I do want to quibble with one thing you said, though, that I don't think that there is any longer a wing of the ruling class and government institutions that represents national capital. I think.
You don't think? Okay.
Well, here's the thing, because national capital itself, productive capital, is all based already within finance. And mostly within finance, even the giant
you may be right.
auto industries, the little bit of steel manufacturing we still have left, right? The problem really is that the primary source of accumulation in the US in 2008 became speculation and finance. Things like asset price inflation scams, right? And like everything gets based around dividends, stock buyback, stuff like this, right? So we have this highly financialized economy, and the only real national capital is inherently already globalized because of this and because of the sectors of industry that technology has propelled forward, at least the ones that matter, right? I'm talking about tech, like Silicon Valley, things like insurance, etc., right? They're all fictitious capital that really make their money through speculation.
Yeah, no, I think you have a point. You have a point, Noah. You're right. It's probably like they just represent two wings of capital, but it's true that there's no national capital anymore. Like even partially national capital in the US is globally dependent or market speculation dependent. So in that sense, you're right. I think I stand corrected in that point.
No, I don't mean to correct you, brother. I just wanted to throw that in there.
No, but I mean, dude, we are dialectical materialists. We are supposed to correct each other and improve. What the fuck?
That's true. I also think, though, that the divisions within American society, the material ones, have been reflected in culture, and the changing class nature of our society has been reflected in changing political positions, right? Like the anti-establishment aesthetic of MAGA, right? This is because MAGA is largely blue-collar working class. The liberal PMC snobbery of AOC and Hassan Piker and all of these also reflects a class position of the PMC, right? So these things can't just be overcome through political machination and just changing towards a class-based approach. It would be nice if we could, but I think we need to take that into account as part of what can ignite the class struggle, rather than sort of just being a distraction from it, which it also is, right? Like you could talk about the culture war as distraction, but it's also inherently tied to it in a lot of ways.
Yeah, for me as a foreigner, like as a Brazilian living in Mexico and working in Venezuela, talking about revolution and class struggle in the U.S. seems so far fetched. It's insane. Like I'm so sorry, and at the same time so plausible. Like as in a true Marxist reading, as Marx said, like potentially the places where revolution could truly trigger is in the places where capitalism is most advanced. So in that sense, like antagonism could really lead to something happening or something opening up. And then the other question I wanted to ask you guys was the this other comment that Elon made at the end, that the reason why Trump wasn't releasing the Epstein file is because his name was there. But don't you guys think that Elon is probably there as well?
Yeah, I
Didn't he
saw
get
a reply. And it
photographed
was
with
just a
Ghislaine
picture of him with
Maxwell?
Ghislaine. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he was photographed with Maxwell. I mean, give me a break, that seems like a pot shot. We got people requesting though, Sebastian. Bring somebody up.
Yeah, we have a handful of people. I don't know if we have time to collect all of them, but the first person I saw was Hispanic American Studies.
Well, no, there were two people before him, I think.
There was one, but they left.
Oh, okay. Let me. Oh, hold on. Yeah, Hispanic. We'll get to. Oh, I think he's gone. Actually, he is
Oh
gone.
no, he's.
Let's
accepted as a
get.
speaker.
Oh, you already brought him up. All right, cool.
Hello, can you hear me?
We
Yep.
can hear you. What's up,
Yeah, we
brother?
can
How
hear
you
you.
doing?
What's up? What's up? These spaces are amazing. I'm glad these crossovers are happening. I'm very, very excited.
Excellent.
I
Well, we're
wanted to
glad we
ask
could provide it.
Diego how what can we do to translate political materialism, materialismo político, right? Get it in the hands of the ACP, of our comrades on the other side of the border. How do we do this?
That's a great question, my friend. Yeah, at some point I was going to propose this to the guys. I think one of them, Eddie Liger, already had a conversation with Santiago Armesilla, which is one of our comrades in Spain, because you guys need to read political materialism as a dialectical, not overcoming, but evolution of Marxist thinking we are using in Latin America in several vanguard parties, which I think is going to be a very, very interesting exchange. I think is more like a lateral conversation that we can have on the side, but it's a very nice suggestion from the camera. Thank you, man.
That sounds interesting. Who's that by? Hispanic.
So basically, this
Well,
is being developed by
Oh.
Santiago Armesilla and the Vanguardias Iberófonas, which are
Okay.
transcontinental socialist movement in all the Iberophone nations, right? So this is Spanish and Portuguese speaking nations.
Cool.
And yeah, I mean, it's basic. I agree with Diego that this is a more complex topic that definitely requires like its own space. But I would say that, just to sort of summarize, it's premised on the fusion between Marx and the best of the dialectical materialist tradition with the work of Gustavo Bueno, which is perhaps the most important Spanish-speaking philosopher of the last, say, 200 years.
Right,
He
like
develops his own
our
philosophical
era
system,
specifically.
very powerful stuff.
Yeah.
And I know Diego recommended a book of his to Maduro, which that was beautiful to see.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did on the interview. Thank you for the comment, man.
Very cool. I'm gonna check that out. We have we sort of have our own view in the American Communist Party that we call the Marxist Leninist Unified Tendency, that sort of embraces really a very practical approach to theory as it's proven in the real world with success, right? So like a lot of people will condemn the Cultural Revolution and uphold Deng Xiaoping, but we learn from both, right? We also like very much focus on the dialectics of universality and particularity, so that there has to be a uniquely American pragmatic approach as well. A lot of my focus is on that. But thank you for the awesome suggestion. Let's get to the next person because we're getting tight on time.
The next person I saw was Diaz.
All right. Why don't you guys handle this one? I apologize. I also deal with a sick mother, so I get phone calls that I really have to take, and I will be right back, guys.
I accepted them as a caller, so
Hello.
hello, welcome, brother.
Nice to talk to you. I'm a big fan, Diego. I'm also from Monterrey, so thank you for this space.
Thank you, man.
I wanted to ask you about what Elon Musk said that Trump won because of him and his platform. Do you think that's true? And also, how would this situation affect the consciousness of the working class in America?
That's a good question, man. First, thank you for the compliment and the comment. Te mando un abrazo. So, like Elon saying that Trump won because of him, I think is kind of a far-fetched idea. I don't think Twitter is that big. No, people tend to overestimate the impact on social media on political decision making, and in the end, one of the things that we learned from Trump, especially on the first term, is that actually still hats and t-shirts and like parading and doing events on the streets is probably more impactful than all the noise we see in social media. We have to remember that we have so many bots not only liking, tweeting and retweeting, but also commenting and interacting. Like social media as a political medium is very bloated. Like we tend to overestimate it by a lot, but nevertheless I do think it did play a role, especially in the end, because not necessarily because of Twitter, but because of the fusion between techno capital and the power of the state. So in that sense, I kind of agree with Elon's. And then seeing this breakup, I think is going to be interesting. But I want to see real consequences. Like I would love to see Elon ban Trump on Twitter, and Trump going after his citizenship, like treating him like an illegal alien. I mean, I think those two outcomes would be very, very interesting to see. But so far, as Noah said before, we have to be very, very careful about how we make conclusions.
Yeah, I want to talk about this for a second too. I'll be quick because we got a couple more requests, and like we usually only go till around 8, and we're past that. So I also want to be respectful of your time, Diego. But I think that I'm like you, right? I want to see real consequences here. Elon recently got asked about all his like anti-immigration statuses, and specifically on the topic of like school visas, student visas, right? Because that's how he came here and was actually working illegally, making himself an illegal immigrant, which I find very funny that he complains about this because of it. Not that illegal immigration is a good thing, that he's a hypocrite, but I want to see that sort of thing even just talked about by Trump, right? And I want to see Elon hit back by banning him from Twitter. I think that would be great. Who do we have next, Sebastian?
Guys, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to cut because I have a meeting now. But thank you so much for letting me interrupt your space.
No, that was great.
No
Thanks
worries.
for
Thank you
stopping
for
by,
joining
brother.
us.
That's what it's for.
Come and join us on a stream sometime as well.
Yeah, for sure.
anytime, man.
Let's organize that. Thank you so much for letting me join in, and I'll see you guys soon.
All
Have
right,
a good
brother.
night,
Take care.
Yeah, we have
man. It's been forever since I got to talk to him. We were trying to set up something because he was going to be down in Venezuela at the same time as a bunch of us. So we were going to hang out, but we unfortunately weren't able to make that happen.
Yeah, it's always great when he joins us.
Yeah. All right. Who do we got next? We'll take the next request and then we'll call it a night.
Yeah, we have a few. I worry they might have been here to ask Diego questions.
Yeah.
But
yeah, there's some stuff in Spanish.
yeah.
Let's try the one in with the one in English here. All right, you're up. I don't remember your name already.
It's like something Bounce Media.
Yeah, Bounce Media. Go ahead. If you got a question, ask it. If you want to yell at me, yell. Go for it.
No, not at all. Not at all. I have a quick question, and it's just more out of curiosity. I'm starting to get involved into the world of geopolitics, and I'm getting really interested in everything that's going on all around the world. And I would like to ask, how can you get more involved, or how can you start to materialize your ideals into your day-to-day life, right? So just to make a quick comparison, you know how we get lied that if you get a shower in 5 minutes, you're going to save some water and save the world, when you have companies like Coca-Cola and Red Bull, you know? running out of the water, how can we actually make an impact? Yeah, I'm sorry if I'm coming in from an individualistic approach, but I would like to know how can we make an impact?
No, that's a fine question, brother. Don't apologize. Also, what's up, Combate? I see you there. If you want to speak, brother, go ahead and request. So I think it's look, politics is not a question of individuals, right? It's a collective, it's a question of the creation of collective discipline. And in the relationship between the individual and that collective that they joined in order to try to enact change, you find within that it affecting your individual life by sort of cultivating discipline within you, cultivating energy and a willingness to help. So I hate to give you a collective answer to an individual problem, but the answer really, if you're American, that is going to acp.us/join and joining the Communist Party, getting trained up and able to actually participate in something bigger that is actually designed to challenge capital, because there's really no good answer in what you can change in your life without that.
Perfect. Thank you.
My pleasure, brother. Have a great night, and thanks for listening. All right. I think that's it. Yeah. Oh, we got one guy. Jesus Araju. You're up, brother. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Jesus Araujo.
Or it could be that, yeah. He's probably here for Diego, but Diego left.
And yeah, just going back to that previous speaker, that was
sorry, I
basically what
was
caused-
muted.
Oh,
Yeah,
Yep.
sorry guys. Yeah, I have a question. Yeah, I came here for Diego, but it's not like I think you guys can answer it better. Related to U.S. Laws, wouldn't Elon confessing a crime saying that he made Trump win using his platform, using this huge platform that is owned by him, like how this can be compared, like I don't know, buying votes or saying like being the image that he is with his comment with the
Yeah,
well, yeah.
I know what you're saying. I think, look, I'm not a lawyer. This is a question I would ask the party's legal department. A buddy of mine, Grayson, is great at these questions. But just with my sort of very baseline knowledge and just understanding of how the legal system in general works, it would be very, very, very hard for anyone to actually prove that, because it's sort of a spicy statement. So if, say, the Democrats wanted to go after Trump based on this, it's just a statement Elon made rather than any actual evidence. So they would have to either fold it into a larger case already being built as part of the evidence for that, or try to build a case around a statement from, I mean, what amounts to a jilted lover. So not the best thing that would hold up as an argument, in a courtroom, that is. You're right that it is illegal to tamper with the voting process, but you could say that about just posting in general, is a tamper. It's all in the way you define these vague terms, and there's not enough leeway there's too much leeway within the law that makes it hazy, at least as far as I know, as someone not educated in that.
Yeah, and Elon even basically directly tried to buy votes with the raffle system that he implemented, where he was like, you can win $1 million or whatever if you register or something. And even with something like that, I'm sure they were ensuring that that there was policy deniability. So yeah, with something like Twitter, it's mainly rhetorical.
Yeah,
It'll be very difficult to definitively prove and then prosecute him for this.
absolutely.
But it can serve as a rhetorical tool for us to peel people away from MAGA.
100%. And I think that's what it'll amount to, honestly. All right. Thank you for your question, Jesus. We're gonna call it a night, guys. Thank you to everybody who asked questions. Big thanks to our brother Diego in Mexico. Thanks for stopping by and hanging out with us. I think I already have something interesting planned for next week. I've been on this big like hammering like vulgar libertarians that don't understand their own theory lately. So little sneak peek for next week. We're gonna be covering some von Mises, so that'll be fun.
Yeah. And just keep an eye out for the form for the mailbag, because we're gonna be maybe not next week, but at some point experimenting with a new section where we answer your questions.
Absolutely, it should coincide with a whole new sort of aesthetic overhaul for the show. So look forward to that. Everybody have a great week. Stay stay solid, stay busy. See y'all guys next time.
Thanks everyone for joining us.
Oh wait, I should probably play the outro, huh? Haha.
Stand up, all victims of oppression, for the tyrants fear your might. Don't cling so hard to your possessions, for you have nothing if you have no right. Let racist ignorance be ended, for respect makes the empires fall. Freedom is merely privilege extended, unless enjoyed by one and all. So come, brothers and sisters, for the struggle carries on. The International unites the world in a song. So comrades, come rally, for this is the time and place. The international ideal unites the human race. Let no one build walls to divide us, walls of hatred nor walls of stone. Come greet the dawn and stand beside us. We'll live together or we'll die alone. In our world poisoned by exploitation, those who have taken, now they must give. And end the vanity of nations. We've but one earth on which to live. So come, brothers and sisters, for the struggle carries on. The International unites the world in the song. So comrades, come rally, for this is the time and place. The international ideal unites the human race. And so begins the final drama, in the streets and in the field. We stand unbowed before their armor, we defy their guns and shields. When we fight, provoked by their aggression, let us be inspired by life and love. For though they offer us concessions, change will not come from above. So come, brothers and sisters, for the struggle carries on. The International unites the world in a song. So comrades, come rally, for this is the time.